Good evening everyone! Maupay nga gabi haaton nga tanan. Magandang gabi po sa ating lahat. Welcome to Huruhisgutay, an online discussion series on vital environmental issues and concerns in Eastern Visayas. Today, environmental conservation is definitely an urgent priority concern. Problems like the continued depletion of our natural resources, global warming, unabated environmental pollution and degradation are just some of the serious issues and concerns that affect each and every one of us and the future generations. If left unattended, this planet, which we call our home, will sooner or later be unable to provide and sustain our basic human needs. Huruhisgutay, which in English means environmental discussion, is an online project that aims to contribute to the sustained effort of saving the world from irreversible ecological destruction. More specifically, Huruhisgutay is a project that seeks to discuss and analyze urgent environmental issues and concerns in Eastern Visayas. By promoting and strengthening cooperation and collaboration between and among entities, Huruhisgutay seeks to assist in the formulation of appropriate policy initiatives that will further advance the purposes and goals of environmental conservation in Eastern Visayas. Tonight's episode is entitled Huruhisgutay number 2, Pangisdaan, Sinirangan Bisayas, or Fisheries Production in Eastern Visayas. In this episode, the members of our online discussion forum will seek to describe the current state of fisheries production in Eastern Visayas and how it affects the livelihood and food security of the current population in the region. In this episode, unsustainable fishing practices that affect fisheries production will be presented, analyzed, and discussed. Local efforts to reverse the dwindling fish stock will also be given importance. At this point, allow us to introduce to everyone the distinguished members of this episode's discussion forum. Our first panel member is a leading and multi-awarded environmental conservationist who serves as the founding executive director of the Giwan Development Foundation Incorporated. She is a former dean of UP Visayas Tacloban College and is a prime mover in marine conservation, particularly in Region 8. In her years of experience as a marine conservationist, she has established and organized fisherfolks into people's organizations which are imbued with a strong sense of commitment and responsibility in preserving the region's marine resources. She served as lead discussant during the pilot episode of Huruhisgutay held last November 27, 2020. Ladies and gentlemen, it is with great pride that we present to you Professor Margarita de la Cruz. Our next panel member is a native of Burauen, Leyte, who earned his master's degree in fisheries technology and Doctor of Rural Management from the Iloilo State College of Fisheries. His wide range of experiences and expertise in the field of fisheries and development work propelled him to become the current Regional Director of the Bureau of Fisheries and Aquatic Resources, Region 8. His leadership role in the implementation of various programs, policies and projects geared towards helping fisherfolks has made him a leading figure in the protection and conservation of fisheries and aquatic resources. Friends, we are honored to have with us tonight Director Norberto Berida of the Bureau of Fisheries and Aquatic Resources, Region 8. Our third panel member earned her Master of Science degree in Aquaculture from the Pangasinan State University and her Bachelor of Science in Fisheries degree from the University of the Philippines, Diliman. She is an aquaculture expert, multi-awarded researcher, policymaker, and highly experienced government official who currently serves as Chief Science Research Specialist of the National Fisheries Research and Development Institute Marine Fisheries Research and Development Center. She also heads one of the technology outreach stations of the Bureau of Fisheries and Aquatic Resources Region 8, which is the Giwan Marine Fisheries Development Center located in Giwan, Eastern Samar. Friends, we are so honored to have with us today Mrs. Nonita S. Kabakaba. Friends, we are privileged to have with us tonight a highly experienced and outstanding environmental scientist who spent her most productive years at the Department of Agriculture and the Bureau of Fisheries and Aquatic Resources as, among others, manager and senior aquaculturist. She earned her PhD in environmental science with marine science as cognate from UP Los Baños. Her wide range of experiences in both private and government institutions allowed her to publish and present important resource materials in environmental science and fisheries. She currently serves as senior lecturer of the MS Environmental Science program of UPV Tacloban College. Ladies and gentlemen, we are pleased to present to you Dr. Nancy Asedilio Dayap. And now, we shall request Dr. Dayap to present her situational report regarding fisheries production in Eastern Visayas.
So I'm going to present this afternoon the status of the fisheries production in Eastern Visayas, as I mentioned earlier. So let's, as an overview of Eastern Visayas, we have two major islands. I'm showing the map here on the left, on the right side. We have 6 provinces. If you look at the map, we're all surrounded by bodies of water, of fishing grounds, mainly San Bernardino Strait, somewhere in northern Samar and between Bicol region and Samar province. Then we have the Philippine Sea towards the Eastern Samar side. We have Leyte Gulf here. And southern Leyte, we have Bohol Sea and even Surigao Strait. And then we have also Camotes Sea towards, and Visayan Sea towards the western part. And of course, Samar Sea also, the northwestern part towards northern Samar. So those are our bodies of water, big marine bodies of water that also serve as fishing grounds. So we have these fishery resources in the region. We have river systems, with southern Leyte as having the northern Samar having the most number of rivers, and but Samar only has 39, but it has the longest in terms of kilometers. Lake systems, we have northern Samar with 12, and total area, of course, because northern Samar has the most number of lakes, it has also the largest in terms of total area, the biggest. Coastal habitats, we have coral reef areas. The data comes from BFAR, by the way. Coral reef areas, mangroves, and seaweed beds. We have northern Samar as having the biggest area for mangroves and also coral reefs. And then we have Samar, followed by Samar, and then Eastern Samar. For mangrove areas, it's Samar and Eastern Samar. For coral reefs, there's a very big difference, but Eastern Samar follows up Northern Samar in terms of hectareage in coral areas. Seaweed beds also, Northern Samar, it's Eastern Samar was the biggest area, hectareage for seaweeds. So all in all, if you look at our resources, Eastern Visayas has diverse resources from freshwaters to marine coastal habitats. This is the some of the socioeconomic data. Some basic information. We have the longest coastline, southern Leyte, but if you look at the number of municipalities, southern Leyte only has 18, but coastal municipalities is 19. So there seems to be something that needs to be checked in here. But overall, we have the most number of coastal municipalities in Leyte, followed by Samar, and then Eastern Samar and Northern Samar have the same number of coastal municipalities. But for Biliran, it is a small province, but all its municipalities are coastal. Unlike the other provinces, although it's a minority, some of their municipalities are not located along the coasts. But mostly, among all the most of the provinces, the coastal municipalities are a majority for all. So longest coastline, I've mentioned already, it's southern Leyte. Maybe because it includes all the small islets there, including Limasawa. But we have to verify this first. I'm sorry, the coastal population is not complete. So for this data, we cannot say that really it is Northern Samar Eastern Samar the most coastal population. We have to check whether for the data for Samar also. Sometime in 2014, the Bureau of Fisheries and Aquatic Resources launched the fish registration and also the boat registration, the boat R. So based on that activity, these are the data. So we have this number of fisher folk registered per province, also the number of boats and also the unregistered boats. The number of registered boats and the number of registered fisher folk were initiated by BFAR, but it was the local government units that did most of the work, although it was BFAR who provided all the funds and for these activities. So it's not really depending on the people who did the boat inventory and the fisher folk registry kung mas porsigido ang local government unit, ayun, mas marami silang nare-register pati sa boats. But at least we have some basis for the total number of people involved in fishing and the number of registered boats. By the way, most of these registered boats are those that are the municipal, those doing municipal fishing, the less than 3 tons. Because the commercial fishing vessels are registered directly with BFAR. The number of registered boats, these are those that are listed maybe at the NSAP, the National Stock Assessment Program data, but are not, because the NSAP also conducted total inventory. So they inventoried the number of boats region-wide, but some of these are not among those registered. Pero at least may data na tayo. Unlike before na wala tayong idea how many fisher folk do we really have, and the number of boats that are doing fishing. Based on the Philippine Statistics Authority and even with the BFAR, there are 3 sectors contributing to the data that we have for fisheries production. Even at the national level or the regional level, ito yung kanilang kinoconsider. Commercial, municipal fisheries broken down, or sometimes they add it up, but the municipal fisheries are consists of the coastal and the inland fishing activities. So the production from the coastal and the inland fishing areas are included in the data for municipal fisheries. Then, of course, aquaculture. Fish ponds, fish pens, fish cages, the mussel farms, the oysters, and the seaweed farms. And even the private and the government hatcheries that BFAR is operating. So this is it. If you look at the trend, there's a drastic drop for total. Total ito that includes all sectors, whether municipal, commercial, and aquaculture. Very big drop from 2014 up to 2017, and slowly recovering 2018 to 2019, but medyo malayo pa makabalik sa 2014 production levels. Let's look at naman our data for Eastern Visayas, still using PSA data. Iba yung atin, medyo stable, not really that big fluctuations over the years. Although 2018, there's lower production data also for all the sectors and slowly going up. And talking with the planning officer, Grace, I think for 2020, there's still an increase from this 2019 data. All the data is in metric tons, by the way. So let's look at how our data contributes or compared to the national data. The green one is our regional data, regional production, and the blue one is the national production. So this is a clearer, the same data in the previous slide, but I used the pie chart to show that we contribute only about 3% of the national production for all sectors. This one is a comparison of the data per province, also from 2014 to 2019. I should notice between the provinces, it is Samar and Leyte. Samar meaning Western Samar, and Leyte who have the highest production in terms of for all sectors na yan. And Biliran, of course, is the smallest province. But if you look at the fluctuations, it's for Eastern Samar, there's a consistently decreasing production. Fisheries production from 2014 to 2019. Medyo consistent yung trend niya, bumababa. While for Leyte, it's somehow consistent until 2016, spiking up, the production spiking up in 2017, going down again in 2018, but slowly recovering last year, the previous in 2019. Northern Samar the trend is the same as Eastern Samar. Nagde-decline siya over the years. For Samar, same as Leyte, there are years that the production is increasing, but the differences are not that drastic. Southern Leyte, pababa din siya over the years, but the last 3 years medyo nag-plateau or parang similar ang production level nila in metric tons for the past 3 years. Let's look at per sector: commercial, municipal, and aquaculture. Looking at our regional data, municipal fisheries is contributing the biggest production. So it's municipal fisheries which is responsible mostly for our fisheries production in the region. Commercial fisheries has been on the decline recovering in 2019, but a little bit. And aquaculture showed increasing trend from 2014 towards 2017. Understandably, because after Yolanda, some of our aquaculture areas were destroyed by Yolanda, and so it's not surprising that 2014 and 2015 rehabilitation pa, and slowly yung aquaculture is uh, producing more by 2017. But how is it? I would like to ask later my colleagues from the Bureau why it is starting again why it declined again, and somehow nagplateau siya by 2019 for aquaculture. Fish sufficiency index. How is our fish sufficiency for the region? We are about 60% over the years since 2016. This is from the BFAR data. I could not find the fish sufficiency data at PSA, but we have at BFAR. And if you look at the sufficiency data, medyo 60% sufficient tayo sa fish for the region, for the needs of the region. And changes in sufficiency, its aquaculture was the lowest change in sufficiency, whereas commercial ang medyo mataas-taas, positive change, and then municipal fisheries. For the total, we have changes over the last 4 years of 11%, but positive naman, hindi siya negative. So, yun lang, I'd like to give a short summary. So, the major contributors of fisheries production for Eastern Visayas are commercial fisheries, aquaculture, and municipal fisheries. Municipal fisheries to include our coastal production and inland fisheries production. We contribute only to about 3% of the country's total. And our PSA data on fisheries show decreasing harvest from 2014 to 19 for the provinces of Eastern Samar, Northern Samar, and Southern Leyte. But for Leyte and Western Samar, there are slight fluctuations, but overall, they showed consistent levels of fish harvest for the 6-year period. Municipal fisheries is contributing much to our fish production, and we have about 60% fish sufficiency index in the last 4 years. I lumped the issues and challenges into 3 broad categories: socioeconomic issues or problems of the fisheries sector, environmental, and fisheries and management institutional issues. So for me, these are the 3 main broad categories of the issues. All other smaller issues can either fall under socioeconomic, could fall under environmental, or under institutional issues. Let's talk about socioeconomic issues. Again, this is an overview of what I perceive and what I observed while working in government in the last 30 years. So, one, of course, up to now is the prevalence of poverty among our small-scale fishers. They are the poorest among the poor. For even lending companies, they could even lend to marginal farmers, but they don't allow lending to small-scale fisher folks. That's why the fisher folk are poorer than the farmers, if you look at it. And they are receiving lesser support from private lending agencies or government. And contributing to the poverty is the low or decreasing stocks, especially in municipal fishing areas. Too many people fishing, with a fixed number of fixed hectareage of fishing area and decreasing population of fish to catch. I think another factor contributing to the low income fisheries, I think, is also post-harvest losses and reduced value of the fish catch. We have no post-harvest facilities. We lack post-harvest facilities in rural areas, mainly because we also have difficulty in our electric companies or current or that fluctuating, and also financial capability to support these facilities. And also we improper post-harvest practices. We need more to do some IEC on how to, although BFAR has been doing this for years, but still the quality in the end doesn't measure up to the quality that is needed for international markets or national markets for that matter. And inefficient marketing systems. Wala tayong efficient, say, transport or marketing system for our fishery products at the local level pa. Kung meron man, kulang pa tayo na hindi pa kaya yung galing doon sa medyo malalayong islands or rural areas na malayo sa urban markets where our fishery products could demand higher prices. So low income, of course, post-harvest losses, reduced value will result from low income. So yun ang isang economic issue. An equitable distribution of benefits from resource use. Of course, especially for aquaculture. Siyempre, aquaculture needs some capital. So, the more you have capital, the more you have money to invest in developing aquaculture area. If you can buy a bigger cage, a more durable one, you can benefit more from using our fishery resources rather than those who don't have the same capital or the same capability or technical know-how for that matter. Environmental, of course, as I showed in the picture, in the introductory picture, about 70% of our fishing areas are showing signs of depletion or already depleted. That is according to a USAID study, and the presenter there was Dr. Nigel Armada. Also, NSAP data shows that of the 13 fishing grounds studied by NSAP under the National Stock Assessment Program, 10 of these 13 were already showing signs of overfishing. And mainly because also, despite the implementation of RA 10654, despite the efforts of BFAR to intensify fishery regulatory mechanisms, still destructive fishing methods are prevalent, especially that we cannot always monitor 24/7 all our fishing grounds. Degraded coastal environments and critical fisheries habitats. Maybe it's because of conflicting programs of government, and then also lack of coordination between agencies, so that some coastal habitats are being removed, being developed, being tinatabunan for some other projects, or reclamation without considering the long-term impacts for the environment, for all the users. They just think of all of their present or individual interest. An example of this, there are no consultations. For example, the Cancabato Bay project of the of the DPWH, the construction of the causeway. I attended one consultation, but gawa na. We were not really involved in the first place. And they didn't, during that meeting, I was very noisy because the fishery sector was not consulted, and all our fishery data and the implications of that to our fisher folk and to the coastal habitats there were never considered. But that's it. Pollution. I don't need, I think, to elaborate that much, but it is a very big problem, both organic, coming from the households, and from the industries surrounding our water bodies, the factories, even the commercial establishments. They dump their waste directly into the water, and not only their effluents, but also solid waste, both from households and from commercial establishments and industries. Oil spills. During my stint at the Bureau, I had several encounters with oil spills in our major ports. So I think, although not major, but in some other areas, medyo may impact din siya. And organic pollution, of course, due to aquaculture activities. Aquaculture is a good thing. In fact, it is our only hope to feed our rapidly growing population in the future, or for increasing fisheries production to be able to supply the needs of our population. But then, sad to say, although impacts can be managed, aquaculture is haphazardly being implemented anywhere and everywhere without following proper protocols on how to do it. Hopefully, in the future, with the implementation of more stricter rules and more higher penalties by the Bureau of Fisheries and Aquatic Resources and the local government units, I hope this can be solved or at least minimized so that the impacts are not that drastic. We see the impacts of organic pollution due to aquaculture in other regions. Hopefully it doesn't happen in our region as well if we go into commercial aquaculture in the future. Environmental changing climatic conditions, the presence of environmental disasters. Every year we have, as a matter of fact, we're always hit by typhoons and other extreme weather conditions. Just the last 2 weeks, we've had heavy rains in the entire region. So we really have to do some adaptation, to do more on developing adaptation strategies, so that we can at least minimize the impacts of changing climate conditions. Management issues, conflicting programs or priorities. Sad to say, even when I was still with BFAR, some of our programs contradict each other. Here's another one division in implementing this program, another division's program contradicting it. And it's not only true within us, it's also true with other agencies, between other agencies, BFAR and the others. Even within the DA family, there are programs, one program damaging another ecosystem. One program enhancing one ecosystem but negatively affecting another ecosystem beside or near that ecosystem. Weak enforcement and laws and regulations relative to fisheries management. We have been beefing up our enforcement activities at BFAR, but there seems to be the weakness is at the, if I may say, at the implementation at the local government level. Somehow, if I speak it directly, politics and some other personal considerations come into the picture when it comes to law enforcement. Lack of research and science-based information to serve as guide for policy formulation relative to resource management. I hope the NFRDI can do more, but as of now, the efforts we recently came up with the fisheries management area. We are implementing the ecosystem-based fisheries management approach, but sadly, we still lack the science-based information that can be the basis for doing all these activities. For one, I observed that we do lack baseline ecological studies of most of our water bodies in the region. Yun ang isa na paano natin plaplanuhin kung hindi man lang natin alam kung ano talaga ang baseline. So, how can you come up with programs na talagang angkop kung hindi mo pala alam ano pala yung nandun talaga sa simula? And then we lack, this is related to baseline studies. Wala tayong masyadong environmental and socio-economic assessments, especially for those areas that are to be used for aquaculture. We tried when I was at BFAR, we tried, but we could not, the very small group that I had, plus the varied assignments that we have, plus the many programs that we really had a shortage of time and people to do all this at our level. So, but this activity should be beefed up if we are to do climate adaptation activities in the future and science-based aquaculture na minimize ang environmental impacts. Climate change, the most that I remember when I was still a year ago at BFAR was come up with a committee about how to do climate change committee at the regional level. But I was a member of that committee, but walang masyadong nagawa. Isa, because pinagawa kami ng committee, wala man lang pondo. So, all we had to do was say patchy-patchy, integrate some activities sa production, sa FRMD, and all other divisions. But I think to be more relevant, to be more to be able to do more, we really have to have some allotment for these activities in the future. And of course, this being a perennial problem, the last seminar I had was before I left the Bureau, was with PSA, trying to harmonize our fisheries data with PSA. Kasi if you compare BFAR data and PSA, malaki talaga ang discrepancy. Maski lang yung tinitingnan ko, BFAR data, yung pinakita ko kanina na map, we have all those fishing grounds. But doon sa PSA, we only have one gulf, Leyte Gulf, and we only have, I think, 2 fishing grounds listed under PSA. So meaning, kung yung data kinukuha lang nila, maybe doon sa fishing grounds na recognize nila. But BFAR, complete enumeration ang ginagawa ng BFAR kasi all these areas, all the projects, all the production from all these facilities, from all these areas. So the most that we could do was towards reconciling the data was that I gave the PSA the complete list of all our project areas, all our fishing grounds, all our inland resources where we were doing aquaculture. We gave that complete list to PSA so that kahit man lang yung sampling nila, dapat, kasi random sampling daw sila, it should be at least stratified random doon sa areas na may production or may nangyayaring say aquaculture or coastal fisheries. Kasi kung i-random mo naman talaga, mahirap, such as nakita ko some of the areas that they were sampling for aquaculture were not functional anymore, destroyed by Yolanda and did not recover, pero kasali pa rin dun sa sampling area. So I hope by this time na reconcile ma-include nila yung new areas where we do fishing, where we do aquaculture, where we do coastal fisheries. And ayan, political will to implement management din ito, fishery laws and regulations, especially at the local level. Mahirap talaga. We have had some problems on this to the point that some of our fishery law enforcers, yung pa ang nakakasuhan. Kasi most municipal fishing grounds are under the jurisdiction of the municipality where it is located, but then we cannot just, if it is, the setup is like that, we cannot just come in. So ang nangyayari sometimes, our fishery law enforcers are the ones na nakakasuhan ng local government for usurpation of authority. And I have a few of my colleagues that face that problems in the course of doing their work as regulatory officers. Lack of appropriately trained manpower to conduct ecosystem-based and multidisciplinary studies about aquatic habitats. Based ito doon sa BFAR na of course kaya siguro marami doon aquaculture fisheries graduates but not much on integrative courses such as environmental science or more on marine biology, meron, iilan-ilan. But they still need training at their level. Lalo na ngayon, the highly trained people have gone out of the service dahil sa long time na walang na-hire. So we had a very big gap between the old and the new ones. Most of those left there now are new recruits na medyo kulang pa sa training, kulang pa. They still need additional training on these aspects so that they could do their work more efficiently and effectively. Walang problema kung yung mga single species, madaming aquaculture pa din doon, but we are veering away from the species-specific culture kasi we have to go to a more broader perspective, considering the ecosystem as the basic unit of analysis for doing projects, for implementing projects. Sustainable fisheries. At the moment, we have still a lot to do to achieve these goals. But however, I laud the government for at the BFAR level, for one, the adoption of the ecosystem-based fisheries management approach as the approach, the precautionary principle, and EAFM as the approach in management of fisheries in in our country, for that matter, not only in the region. And I am also very appreciative of the NSAP and NFRDI for uh, starting with the development of and implementation of harvest control rules for fisheries. Ito yung makakatulong dun sa depletion, resource depletion, especially our marine areas. But we still need a lot of data to be able to completely or to reliable data for that matter to have this efficiently in place. And then we also have the code of conduct of for responsible fisheries in place, and especially for the aquaculture sector, dapat ma-implement talaga ito. Madami pa tayong aquaculture areas sa region na warang assessment man lang, did not go into the process of environmental impact assessment, at wala silang proper monitoring kasi nga wala silang ECC. So walang masyadong monitoring na nangyayari. And they are not compelled to do that at this point. And then yung AMIA. AMIA stands for the Agriculture Adaptation Mitigation Initiatives for Agriculture. When I attended the first AMIA meeting, the fisheries was not included. So they realized, we voiced it out, that part of the agriculture sector is fisheries. Kaya ngayon, it's AMIA and fisheries na. And kasali na tayo. So I hope more strategies, more concepts could be developed for the fishery sectors para this could help at least for adaptation to extreme climate events, especially for our region. So that's very general. We still have a lot of programs, the fish corral, on livelihood, the enhanced CRM projects, but they, as I've said, they also fall under the three broad categories of issues, solving all those three broad issues in fisheries. So thank you for listening. I would appreciate much more inputs from my colleagues and also from the NGOs and the POs where I have limited exposure in the past. Reactions to what I had just presented.
Okay, Doc Nance, thank you very much for your nice presentation for our fisheries in Eastern Visayas. Hopefully you can input also on the area on fishing grounds. We have at least 3 major fishing grounds in Eastern Visayas. We have what we call the Samar Sea, 3,870 square kilometers. Location, Samar, Masbate, and Leyte. So we have also the fishing grounds at Camotes Sea, 2,476.8 hectares. Location, Cebu, Leyte, and Bohol. So we have what we call the Leyte Gulf, 2,724 square kilometers. Location, the Leyte Islands and Samar Island. So that's the 3 major fishing grounds in Eastern Visayas.
Yeah, those are the 3 major fishing grounds listed sa PSA. But in the map that I presented, if those are the major fishing grounds, I would also like them, PSA, to consider the minor ones. Because sa NSAP data, we have so much also production coming from these smaller fishing grounds in the region. I think the 3 are included in our FMA, the 3 major fishing grounds. And including even the Surigao Strait. Yes.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah. Thank you, Nance, for the very informative presentation. And I just want to note that if we look at the production in Eastern Visayas, as you said, and which I agree, it's somewhat stable. If you look at from 2014 to 2019, no? Although if you segregate that into provinces, we can see which one is not producing so well and which one is really declining in a particular year. But overall, the production seems to be a bit stable. Yeah. But you also informed us that the fish sufficiency is at 60%. And that means that we have a balance of 40%. So how can we address this concern? Because I think surely we need to address this. Or is this being addressed now, and has BFAR been able to really focus on addressing the balance in fish sufficiency in the region? Yeah.
Can Director Berida answer this for me? I think we're doing some, but maybe Director Berida, can you answer that for me?
Yes, Ma'am Marge, actually, we have what we call the production target per province for both for commercial, municipal, and aquaculture. Then this could be distributed for the eating population within the entire Region 8. We have at least 3,732,000 fish eating population within the region. So
Correct.
Precise representation of Doc Nance that the level of sufficiency we have right now nasa 60 or 62%.
Nance's
It
average.
fluctuates. Average, that's the average. It
That's the
fluctuates between 50 plus to about 60 plus.
60
But
plus.
if you average, it's about 60.
So perhaps we could adjust, we could level up this even up to 64 or 66%.
Yeah, but that doesn't also address the real need, no? Because if you talk about food security, we have to be able to provide for this, and there are of course ways in which we can provide or we can ensure food security. And I wonder if one of these is by importing, and I'm wondering if the region is importing fish and other fishery products from neighboring regions or even from foreign countries. Are we into that? I'm not very familiar with the importation thing for fish and fishery products.
Here in our region, we are sufficient for our fish and fishery product. For example, on capture fisheries and aquaculture, sufficient tayo. But din maraming isda na galing sa Eastern Samar, Northern Samar, or Samar, nilalabas nila, dinadala sa Maynila, Cebu, or Mindanao. So, ganun. We have the record that for our quarantine services in the fish port and in the airport.
Yeah.
Yeah, Ma'am Marge, what can I add? When I was in Northern Samar one time, we observed that I think we could be self-sufficient if all our production goes into the region. In Northern Samar, for example, it was A.R.D. Terry and I who went there. All the harvest, the fish harvest goes direct to source
Okay.
good.
Thank you.
It doesn't even drop by Northern Samar. Why we conducted an interview? Why do they do it? Why do they do it? It's because say they get so much, say sardines for that matter, and if they run to Katarman or to some neighboring towns there, they will only say get a portion. And by that time, the rest, they will run again to, with their lack of adequate, say, refrigeration or post-harvest facilities, pagtakbo pa nila sa Sorsogon, pagdating doon, sira na, bilasa na yung isda, hindi na bibilhin. So sabi ng mga fisher folk doon, they bring it all to Sorsogon where the reefer vans of Nabotas are there. So sabi ko, can we just drop it here for recording purposes only and then it goes there? No, kasi daw, wala silang mga dala doon sa boat nila na mga maski chillers lang. So they have to run immediately. Sabi ko, bakit ba? How much do you harvest? Say, one time when they go out to sea, they get about 50 banyeras. That one time fishing, 50 banyeras. And how many are just sold in Katarman? 9. They only get 9. So the rest, pag tatakbo pa kami after Katarman, tatakbo pa sa Sorsogon, wala na, pagdating sa Sorsogon, sira na. Whereas, kahit pa kami baratin, yung 50 na yan, pagdating sa Sorsogon, sa Bulan, bibilhin lahat. So they get a lot more. Whereas, maraming masasayang. Same is true for other islands there. Hindi siya nare-reflect sa production natin din. And we've been fighting for it. In Eastern Samar, there are, when I was attending the National Tuna Congress, I had to laugh out loud when the announcer during the Congress announced that we will be eating fresh sashimi and this is first class sashimi and our tuna comes from Eastern Samar. I laughed out loud because I had to go to Jensen to eat sashimi coming from my region, from the very place where I came from. So that's it. Most of our products are going out. Maybe what Director Berida is saying is true. We are sufficient. It's just that it's not recorded and it's not sold here. Yun ang isa.
Yeah. Then that is a problem in terms of the accuracy of our data.
Yes, ma'am.
Kasi you were saying earlier na sa simula pa lang there's already a discrepancy in the information. And this is very important because we are turning out statistics that are not accurate. Not to mention that these are not even coming on time. So if we are missing out on our production, we are misrepresenting our region in terms of production. So we have low production when in fact we would have a better production if only we are gathering the right data or the right information, if we're collecting information from all the fishing grounds that we have. But as Director Berida said, we only have 3 fishing grounds that are being monitored. What happened to the others? For example, if we look at the Matarinaw Bay and the Philippine seaside, where the tuna is coming from, we are not recording the data from here, the catch from here. And that could be a big one, especially during summertime. So we are missing out on our production.
That is what we were debating at ma'am during that meeting. Because if you look at the fishery statistics data book, we only have 3 listed there.
Yeah.
Bodies of water. So what about the others? Meaning the enumerators of PSA are only collecting from those 3 listed in their book. We really have. We hope they looked at the voluminous printed data and even the e-copy of all the fishing grounds, all the aquaculture areas, inland and coastal, that we provided them as of 2019. And the problem is they are the ones being listened to for policy, for strategies, for programs, because they are the official data source of the Philippines. So yun, we're at a disadvantage in this regard.
Oh yes. Hello. Good afternoon, Anans. Thank you for the very nice presentation. Medyo complete na picture on our production sa Eastern Visayas. And in terms of sustainability, I just would like to add on the aquaculture side, kasi yung sa capture fisheries, alam naman natin na talagang recording of production at the seaside part is really hindi natin makontrol, because that's really what is happening in Giwan and the Borongan side, Maydulong, where the tuna fisheries is really we have that high quantity. And for maybe in addition to the sustainability of our fisheries resources in Eastern Visayas, I think we have to strengthen our hatcheries, like for example the milkfish hatchery, kasi if we strengthen that, hindi na kailangan kumuha ng fingerlings from Jensan or from Davao, kasi we have a lot of fish pond operators who are going into fingerling production. Kulang lang tayo ng fry, ng milkfish fry or any other fin fish na magagamit for aquaculture production. So sana sa BIFAR na side ma-implement na talaga natin yung mga legislated hatchery to help our fisher folk who are into aquaculture production, na dito na lang sa region kumuha ng seeds para cheaper the price of the fry, and then we can really sustain or mabigyan natin yung pangangailangan ng mga aquaculturists who go into aquaculture production. For example, what we did last year, because of the pandemic, there were projects of NFRDI who that were refocused. Even the bar projects were refocused into production. So ang ginawa is we give free fingerling fry in coordination with BIFAR, of course, to the fingerling producers, and then they sold it to those aquaculturists. And then isang project pa of NFRDI na ongoing ngayon, it is funded by BAR. It is a refocus project, yung stock enhancement of blue swimming crab. Siguro si Ma'am Marge makakaan sa akin na hindi in terms of aquaculture parang hindi pa ang blue swimming crab, kasi they have conducted already study on the grow out culture, but what we can do maybe is for sustainability is for the stock enhancement activities. So the BAR project of funded by BAR of NFRDI and BIFAR is until June only. So parang I would like to propose to BIFAR and NFRDI again na to continue the activity, kasi hindi natin makukuha kung is it really ma-impact ba talaga yung 1 year activity. I think we cannot say that there's increase in the production because of stock enhancement. So siguro mga stock enhancement activities, and then I think another, Ma'am Marge, is kailangan siguro natin i-pursue na yung project, yung proposal ni Ma'am Annette na mag-ano ng LGU, and then we look for an area where we could stock the sea cucumbers, and then LGU or a PO na magmamanage, and then we have to control the harvest, or ito lang yung pwedeng i-harvest para makakuha ng premium mga sea cucumbers to help our fisher folk na umangat naman yung income nila. Yun nga yung in support to the DA secretaries Ani and Kita na program.
Yeah, that's true. If we go back again to the statistics, we saw that the production of the municipal fishers is really contributing a lot to the overall production of the region. And not only in the region, but that is the whole Philippines, no? We have around 1.6 million municipal fishers in the country. But sad to say also, they are the poorest of the poor. But there's a lot of things that actually can be done, especially by government, to support this sector, no? They are poor because one, they have no or very limited access to basic services. This impacts so much on their families, no? Magkasakit lang isang membro ng family, wala na. The father can't go fishing. They don't have food for the day. So it affects the whole family. So access to basic services, paano natin i-improve dyan? And because we have a growing population of municipal fishers, we have to ensure that the resources is there for them, that they can sustain their livelihood. And there's so many ways to do this. Even Republic Act 8550 and with the amendments, we still have to look into the reservation or the declaration of at least 10% or 15% is that of our municipal waters as protected, marine protected areas. How many of our municipalities have complied with this? No? Mabibilang siguro kung meron. No? So it isn't it. And these MPAs are meant to support our coastal fisheries. And we have proven that in many places, especially in the areas where we are, BFAR and GDFIR, we have proven that the catch has increased because of MPAs. No, even if you talk to the fishers, they would say that in the past, without the MPAs, they were not able to operate their fish corrals anymore. But with the establishments of the MPAs, 4 years after, they were able to again install their fish corrals and get some catches. So these are important support. The enhancement, the habitat enhancement, seeding of juveniles, but big enough so that mortality would not be so high, is also important, and that is also supporting. That's what I say, how do we support this biggest sector? Of course, aquaculture is going to be a very important sector for food production. No, aquaculture because it can be controlled, but we also have to look into the subsequent pollution that this can bring. No, we know for a fact that in many areas there are already regular fish kills because of eutrophication, and this is brought about by unregulated numbers of fish cages and even unregulated feeding. And so there's a need for a lot of research in this research on this thing, no? Feeding, what kind of feeds, and what to do with uneaten food that goes and settles in the bottom and become the bottom become anoxic because of a bacteria acting on these feeds. So these are things that could be studied, no? And also a lot of other species that are culturable, no? Maybe the region can look at supporting research studies on the biology and culture of several species. The sea cucumber is one. The sunfish, we are doing some developing some grow out technology so that our small fishers can earn income, additional income from growing out sea cubes. But this is not even going to be their main source of livelihood, because it will take about a year and a half for them to be able to harvest good sized sea cucumbers. No? So meanwhile, they still have to go fishing. And that is the crucial point, that we have to be able to ensure that the resources in the sea can be sustained for our coastal fisheries, for our municipal fishers. Yeah, I think that's...
Thank you, Marge.
Okay,
Sige.
Dr.
Thank you for that. That's what I was emphasizing in the presentation, that we can do aquaculture, but we have to manage it sustainably. Before we do anything, before we start anything, we should go into baseline assessments, environmental impacts, and calculate the carrying capacity. Most of the areas where there is aquaculture in the region now, they don't have those data yet, except for those commercial mariculture areas where I did some environmental impact assessments. So we should pursue that, kasi if we are to believe the data of NSAP, although we have stable fisheries for that matter at the moment, still it is on the downtrend. It is towards going to overexploitation or depletion. So we should allow our coastal fisheries to recover for some time, but we have to support aquaculture properly. And then also, if we are going into aquaculture, how could we involve more the marginal fishers, or the we did before the what is that, the cage for rent, but it didn't prosper. We should have evaluated why it did not, when in fact they were given free, and that was a support program for the smaller ones, because the aquaculture naman is for those that have money, for those that have capital. Medyo mahirap kung wala kang yung marginal fishers, artisanal fishers. So how do we do? It's a dilemma how to
Dyan si Director.
Yeah. How do we balance?
Ang problema lang kasi, like if BIFAR or any other agency support this small fishers or fisher folk, parang ang nangyayari is, kung may support, okay lang. After that, hindi na nasa-sustain. Yun ang nagiging problema sa support coming from the government. I don't know pa paano natin yan ma-twist para magkaroon ng sustainability. Yes, ma'am.
Paano kaya yung Director? Meron tayong program, di ba?
Yeah, okay. I will answer Ma'am Marks. Yeah. The importance of the fisheries management area. So, for example, in FMA8, we are doing it, Ma'am Marks. I am the chair. So, we have at least registered fishery folks covered from FMA8, 45,000 and Leyte Gulf area. In the Caraga region, we have at least 31,000. A total of 77,000. So the FME would like to support also the livelihood of these 77,000 registered municipal fishery folks. So for this, through FMA activities or programs, we have to have more effective management when we do the science-based decisions, what Doc Nancy and the UP Visayas or UP Tacloban are doing, including on March. So we have also to promote cooperation and co-management system among the different stakeholders, sharing the same stocks. So we the fisheries, we do the fisheries regulation also. This area, inside the fisheries management area, like for example in FMA, will be consistent or complementary and be transparent to all the key stakeholders. So yun, at least magagamit. So aside from that, I do for the sustainability also for this activity, we are right now doing the pre-FS. For this year, BFAR 8, we have at least approved Republic Act 10861 establishing a provincial fisheries and aquatic resources training, development and production center. So we have to establish at least one provincial center. We have training center, we have hatchery, then we have post-harvest facilities within the 6 provinces. So a budget of almost, including equipment, hatchery building, almost 7.6 million, 5 million for training center, 3 million for post-harvest. Other than that is for the equipment. So at least 20 M per province. So it could support the sustainability of our aquaculture. Okay, thank you very much, Ma'am Marge.
Yes.
Yeah. May follow-up lang ako doon sa sinabi ni Nonet, no? Yung sa sustainability ng programs ng usually that are provided by the government. That's very true, no? If you recall, after Typhoon Yolanda, 2014, the production has gone up, no? And there are several factors for that. And in fact, during that time, I was already very worried because we have been, a lot of organizations, including BFAR, have been providing boats to many fishers, no? And even non-fishers, kasi wala pa tayong magandang registration noon. So even tricycle drivers got the 1 or 2 units of fishing boats, but they never used this anyway. But it was really very worrisome because once everybody would start fishing, now we'll be depleting our resource in no time. But because from November to December and January, February, nobody can go out fishing because they didn't have boats. And so the resource was able to sort of rest, no? And nakapagpahinga. So that when the boats started operating, tumaas talaga ang production. And in fact, malalaki yung isda na nahuhuli, no? And even some people didn't want to eat fish because they thought that they were eating the cadavers in the sea. But anyway, that was artificial. I was thinking that this is going to be really artificial. And it went up 2015, even still 2016, but mostly also because of aquaculture. And then in 2017 and from 16-17, we saw a downtrend. And that was expected, no? Kasi artificial yun eh. Nawala na yung mga nets nila, marami na hindi nakapag-fishing. So, nag-downward trend na. But is this a reflection of what type or how much resource do we really have in our fishing grounds? Or as I said, it was just artificial. Maybe it can be both also, no? So, what I'm saying is that protection and conservation measures are really effective. No, hindi lang nangisda ng 4 na buwan tumaas yung ating catch. So this is the rationale behind declaring areas for closed season. But we never did this in the region. This was started in Zamboanga, but we have not done this yet in our place. And even our fishers, our old fishermen in Maliwali, for example, alam nila kung kailan nag-i-spawn ang mga danggit. But we never declared this as closed season when it is spawning time for them. No, because we are afraid that people will react badly. But this has been done already, so maybe we can replicate this for our danggit and for our other species. No, we can look at our lobsters, which Giwan, for example, is a supplier of lobsters in the past. But what do we have now? Small ones. And they're still being caught less than 100 grams or even just 60 grams hinuhuli na. Because we don't have harvest control rules. We don't have size controls except for a few. No? So I think these are important measures that we really have to adapt so that our fisheries could recover and so that we can have a sustainable yield. No? Hindi pwedeng yung open lang and then sige lang, kung sino lang yung ano. Then we still have the problem of commercial fishers intrusion. into municipal waters. These are also very tricky because isang howling lang ng isang ring net, ubos kaagad yung resources dyan. Samantalang if these are fished by our municipal fishers, kung ano lang yung mahuli nila, escape pa yung iba, no? So mas matagal na nagagamit ang resource. Pero pag nag-commercial fisher pumasok sa municipal waters, patay na yung ating mga municipal fishers. So that's enforcement, protection. These are very simple things that can really make a big difference in terms of sustaining our resources. No, hindi na kailangan natin ng mga sophisticated ways of enforcement kasi if we just look at our municipal waters, kayang-kaya yan ipatrol. Kaya lang, kailangan natin ng suporta naman. What we are doing now, puro mga volunteers yung natin, yung nagpapatrol, volunteers yung ating bantay dagat, walang mga incentive. Yung iba, at least in some municipalities na who recognize the importance of our municipal fisheries, nagbibigay sila ng incentive. For example, in B1, in Salcedo, may incentive. In the A7 municipalities, may incentive yung mga nagpapatrol. And we are also giving insurance coverage for our volunteers. But they need more than that because they also have families, no, to take care of. And that is why the bill of Senator Hontiveros na hindi naman mapasa-pasa, iwan ko kung ano bakit yung ibang mga programa na hindi mo malaman kung ano yung magiging magandang bunga ay agad-agad na napipirmahan. Pero itong bills na pinasa ni Senator on bantay dagat, no, giving incentives and benefits to bantay dagat volunteers, hindi mapasa-pasa, ang tagal-tagal na, no? That is bill na 1919, no, giving benefits to bantay dagat. There's another bill that is Bill 1920, also by Senator Hontiveros, is the adoption of an integrated coastal management as a national strategy for sustainable development of coastal and marine environments. Pero hindi rin makapasa, no? Ito yung magagandang bagay na dapat nakakasuporta dito sa ating karagatan at sa mga taong depending on the sea for their sustenance and for their livelihoods. Pero yun ang mga hindi natin ewan ko, kasama na rin doon. Kailangan pa rin siguro ng lobby din ng Bureau para pumasa ang mata. I'm sure the Bureau is working with Senator Hontiveros for these bills, no, including the Coastal Greenbelt Bill. But these are still pending in the Senate, no? So no need for sophisticated, very expensive measures. No, well, we have to do establish marine sanctuaries, implement strict protection, no, and implement the law, and that should make it, no, because we have really very beautiful laws and regulations that ensure sustainability, except that we are not implementing this properly, or in some cases we are not implementing this at all. Kasama pa dun yung conversion ng habitats, no? Like Nancy said, that one program is actually negatively impacting another. Where this has been, I think I've mentioned this in the first episode, that seagrass beds are being turned into mangrove areas, no, by government programs. We are, instead of educating our communities properly on the ecosystems, we are teaching them the improper way of doing things. One old man in Pagnamitan before, when I asked what happened, why they are planting mangroves on seagrass beds, and they said, kasi gobyerno po ang nag-utos niyan eh. Bakit nila kami tinuturuan ng mali? This is really, I think we should also try to look into this and coordinate with the different agencies so that programs are harmonized and properly implemented. Sayang naman yung resources.
Okay, thank you very much, Ma'am Marge. Noted. So hopefully during our FME meeting, not only FME 8 but the FME 9, I think we are member. So we could suggest also this what we call the House Bill of Senator Ontiveros to support.
Okay. Maybe I'll just para habang iniisip pa ni Nancy yung gusto man pa niya i-ano. I would just like to suggest some points, no, for what can be done, because we all know very well what the issues are in the fisheries sector, especially among our coastal fisheries or coastal fishers, no. We are talking about overfishing, which is not only a problem in Eastern Visayas. This is a problem in the country and in fact even globally. No, it is said that 33% globally of the fishing grounds are overfished, and 67% of the resources are fully exploited. And we are really expecting, or we will really soon be having what is called the global fishing crisis. No, it may come earlier in our case, because in the Philippines we really have not just biological overfishing or recruitment overfishing, but we also have ecosystems overfishing. So this is a very serious issue, and we hope that we won't get to experience the collapse of our fisheries. No, so. I would like to propose some suggestions to improve our MPA systems. This is already in the law, so maybe one thing is to follow through the implementation of the 15% of the municipal waters for marine protected areas, and perhaps the different LGUs, coastal LGUs, should be able to implement this provision already. No, and I don't know what sanction or there is to this, but this is the law and this should be implemented. But not just establishing these MPAs, but also to provide support for the management initiatives of the community, of the CSOs, of other groups, no, that are helping in properly managing these marine protected areas, like capacitating management bodies and providing regular budget for MPA monitoring and assessment. It is also important to educate not just our communities, but also our LGUs. So especially now that we are into in Region 8, FMA is being implemented, but how many LGUs are aware of this thing called the fisheries management areas? I'm sure hindi pa maraming LGUs ang may alam nito, no? And it is important that we should be able to orient as many, or in fact all the LGUs on this fisheries management area. Otherwise, this program will not be supported by the LGUs. We have to consider that we are talking of municipal waters, and this is under the jurisdiction of the LGUs. So no matter if you have FMAs, kung hindi naman tayo suportahan ng LGUs, wala rin naman mangyayari, no? And continue on with habitat enhancement, and properly done habitat enhancement, not mixing DNA of the different species, no? So we are very concerned about this, no? BFAR and GDFI with our other colleagues are very concerned about not mixing DNAs, no? So enhancement should be done properly with scientific and technical advice. For LGUs, it's important that if they are concerned of their municipal waters, then I think the creation of the coastal resource management section in the municipality is also important. Walang tumututok sa dagat na anong tawag nito? They are coastal municipalities, and yet the LGUs, very few, have a CRM section in their organizational setup, no? And not just for that, but they can also go into alliances with other LGUs and appropriate a regular budget for CRM related activities, no? For coastal resource management related activities, to protect the municipal waters, to conserve the resources, no? And be serious about strictly implementing the laws, their municipal fisheries ordinance, and to strengthen and capacitate their enforcement teams. I think these things are very simple. It's part of the day-to-day activity or operations of the LGU, and yet this will really bear fruits in terms of sustaining the coastal fisheries and the resources for the coastal fishers. Yeah, I think that's all that I've got to say. Thank you.
I just have one more comment. Yung kanina na about environmental problems, especially yung sa aquaculture part natin. I don't know if BIFAR could impose or with our A7 Ma'am Marge na kasi that's yun yung totoo yun yung sinasabi ni Nancy na walang environmental impact assessment before any aquaculture project is established. So hindi natin alam anong mangyayari sa environment after an aquaculture project has been established. So ayaw din naman nating mangyari yung nangyari sa ibang lugar like Dagupan or Taal Lake, yes. So sa akin lang or suggestion lang is can we propose to LGUs kasi sa kanila naman yung municipal waters and aquaculture projects are established in the municipal waters, or I don't know if we could propose na before any aquaculture activity will be done in a municipal water under that certain LGU, na sana manghingi muna or the LGU should require an environmental assessment before, para we are assured that they will follow, good aquaculture practices, yung mga ganun.
Yeah, I think it's very important. So after all, they will have to secure permits from the LGU. So kailangan magkaroon ng ganyan mga ano. Except that we really have to, maybe BIFAR can provide the information to the LGU for these things, no? Kasi what they will have to require for those who would apply for aquaculture. Some studies, maybe this is one of the more urgent studies that can be done, because we are looking at aquaculture as the provider for the balance in the fish requirement or fisheries requirement of the region. So we're looking at aquaculture to fill this up. So siguro magkakaroon dapat ng study on, for example, how many units of 5 square meter fish cage can be set up in one area, like the San Juanico Strait or San Pedro Bay, so that it will not go overboard and cause eutrophication and eventually fish kill. So I think this is very important. Yeah, we'll definitely do that for the A7.
Yes, thank you so much to the UP and Leyte-Samar Heritage for inviting me to this very important discussion, Huruhisgutay 2. I hope I was able to contribute to what the objective of this discussion had, and yes, the topic is really very important. for other sectors, other institutions, schools to know the situation of our fisheries production here in Region 8. Kasi without this one, I think it adds to the knowledge, especially in schools. Kasi yung pinag-usapan natin is really real time, ano yung mga experience ng mga discussant and panelists. So thank you so much for doing this, and God bless us more.
Thank you so much for inviting me for this prestigious event. I could say thank you for the Leyte-Samar Heritage Center and the UP Tacloban, to the my colleagues also, for Doc Nancy and Margs and Manita, who are part also of our fisheries expert here for environmental. So I could see this theme. I could say that the great themes of UP Visayas for environmental protection. Once again, thank you so much. Maupay nga tulog ating tanan.
Thank you for organizing this forum, this series good. I think this is one way of reaching out to a larger audience on what is the state of our environment, no? And then the different components of our environment. So in a way, we are helping to increase or to raise the awareness of people, and more people, as I said, bigger audience on the status, on the concerns and issues and what's going on in our own backyard, because it's really very difficult when we don't even know what's going on around us. I mean, it's sad, it's difficult, it's really sad if we don't know what's going on around us. The sustainability of our coastal fisheries and our coastal resources is not just a concern of the government, BFAR, or the fishers. This is the concern of all of us. Tayong lahat, kasi I think walang Pilipino na hindi kumakain ng isda. We eat fish and we love crabs and shrimps. And no matter how much money we have, if these are no longer available, well, what can we do? So I think we all must help in sustaining this resource, in trying to help in whatever we can, to be able to protect, conserve these resources, not only for our needs, but also for the needs of our the future generations. So again, this is a very important undertaking, very significant, and this will really hopefully help a lot in encouraging our youth to participate in the protection and conservation of our coastal and marine resources.
Thank you for listening to my presentation. I hope I was able to present the real picture of our fisheries in the region. And I also realized that looking at our fisheries situation, the local government has really the biggest role after BFAR in this endeavor in fisheries. And I forgot to mention also that yes, it's true, the coastal areas are not included even in the CLUP, the Comprehensive Land Use Plans. I was able to attend one meeting at NEDA, and their CLUP, most of them were coastal municipalities, but they didn't include in their planning, in their plan, the coastal areas. So, isa yun and then also much of the implementation of all these rules, these laws that we have are with the local government. So malaki talaga ang role nila. So IEC, training, and all our efforts, maybe at BFAR as the government bureau, primarily tasked with fisheries conservation and production and all that. Talagang malaki ang dapat gawin with the coordination and activities with the LGU. So for aquaculture, importante, it has a very big potential on supplying our fishery needs, but let's keep in mind always the precautionary principle. My frustration when I was at before was being asked to go to the aquaculture area kung fish kill na or may problema na. I was never called before the project was implemented. So I hope it will change. Before anything is done in the area, it is better that carrying capacity estimation is done, baseline assessment is done, so that we will know the real picture and what we can really do, and how much can we produce in that particular area. So thank you siguro. For the rest, thank you for the comments. Nadagdagan yung knowledge ko.
There you have it, ladies and gentlemen, our second episode of Hisgut Kalibungan entitled Huruhisgutay number 2, Pangisdaan ha Sinirangan Bisayas or Fisheries Production in Eastern Visayas. We trust that given this discussion forum, you have gained important insights as well as a renewed understanding about tonight's episode. Based on the said discussion forum, please allow us to present to you Mr. John de la Cruz, University Research Associate of the Leyte-Samar Heritage Center, who shall recapitulate the highlights of this online discussion forum.
Based on the discussions, the following recommendations are put forward to address the issues and challenges affecting the fisheries production in Region 8 as well as to achieve sustainable fisheries in Eastern Visayas. First is to formulate and implement science-based plans, programs, projects, and policies for the enhancement, conservation, and management of fisheries resources in Region 8. More research studies on the social, economic, political, cultural, biological, ecological, and environmental aspects of fisheries, among others, are needed to provide updated information on the state of the fisheries sector in Eastern Visayas. Research organizations are encouraged to share their findings with policymakers and implementers to help them appreciate the importance of research in policy making. At the same time, policymakers and implementers are encouraged to utilize the knowledge products derived from the research as inputs in charting informed and appropriate interventions in augmenting the fisheries sector in Eastern Visayas. For instance, concerned line government organizations may continue implementing stock and habitat enhancement provided that these projects are done with sound scientific and technical advice from experts. Second is to reconcile and harmonize the data and data collection methods in fisheries production to provide a more accurate representation of the total fisheries production in Eastern Visayas. Data on total fisheries production in Eastern Visayas comes only from the three major fishing grounds, and these are the Samar Sea, Camotes Sea, and Leyte-Samar. Meanwhile, some of the fish harvest in Eastern Visayas, particularly in Samar and Northern Samar, are landed directly in Sorsogon, Cebu, and Mindanao. How the data are collected in addition to the fish harvests that are landed and recorded in other regions all lead to the inaccurate representation of the fisheries production in Eastern Visayas. To avoid such error, it is deemed necessary to gather the production data from all other sectors in the other minor fishing grounds in Region 8, which produces tons of commercially important fishery commodities, just like the three major fishing grounds. Moreover, there is a need to devise a data gathering procedure that will provide accurate information about the place of origin of the landed catch and account the volume of catch to the place of origin rather than where the catch was landed. This strategy will not just avoid inaccurate reporting of the aggregate fisheries production, but will also help to better plan for sustainable fisheries in Eastern Visayas and the rest of the country. Third is to strengthen coordination within and between and among different line government agencies to harmonize program and project development and implementation. This strategy will help avoid the development of conflicting plans, programs, and policies within an organization and between and among different line government agencies. Most importantly, this approach will enable the organization to maximize and channel their limited manpower and fiscal resources into comprehensive programs, projects, and policies. Next is to adopt evidence-based regulatory measures in the country to boost total fisheries production in Eastern Visayas. Implementation of harvest control rules and closed season for fishing, for example, have proven to reverse the dwindling fish stock in some areas in the Philippines and in some parts of the world. By implementing similar regulatory measures along with other existing laws that intend to protect and enhance the fisheries resources and the environment, Eastern Visayas may be able to recover and achieve sustainable yield and increase its fish sufficiency index sooner. Fifth is to improve the management systems of fishery refuge, sanctuaries, and marine protected areas, or MPAs, in the region. LGUs, or local government units, should be encouraged to establish 15% of its municipal waters as fishery, refuge, and sanctuary, or marine protected areas, pursuant to Republic Act 10654 or the amended Philippine Fisheries Code. Moreover, it is also important to provide support for the management initiatives of the community, civil society organizations, and other groups that are helping in the proper supervision of MPAs. This support can be provided in the form of capacity building activities like capacitating management bodies, or by allocating regular funds or budget for MPA monitoring and assessment, including incentives for the monitoring teams like honoraria and healthcare insurances. Furthermore, the creation of Coastal Resource Management or CRM offices or sections in LGUs will likewise contribute to the enhancement of fishery refuge, sanctuaries, and marine protected areas, as well as the enhancement of the local fisheries production in general. And finally, line government agencies like BFAR must support and help in lobbying important bills filed at the Senate and at the House of the Representatives that intend to support and reinforce the fisheries sector of the country. Sixth is to improve the access of municipal fisheries to basic services. Resources should be made available for the growing number of municipal fishery-dependent households in order to sustain their livelihood. Local government units, in partnership with other stakeholders, must plan and implement informed and appropriate interventions that will help alleviate the living conditions of the municipal fishers. For example, they can have scholarship grants and healthcare packages for the fishers and their family. In another example, strengthening local hatcheries to augment the local supply of fingerlings will help the local fish farmers save some of their operational costs. On the other hand, the government should also provide alternative livelihood opportunities for the fishers in order to augment their source of food and income. Providing alternative sources of income to the fishers may help reverse the increasing fishing pressure and its adverse effect to the environment and to the economy and well-being of the fishery-dependent households. Now, next on our list is to educate the community local government units, and other groups about the current initiatives on sustainable fisheries in the region and in the country as a whole. Line government agencies, non-government organizations, the academe, and other groups or organizations who are working in fisheries development, particularly in Eastern Visayas, must intensify their information, education, and communication campaigns. This approach will particularly help raise the awareness among locals, local government units, and the members of the community about the current issues and challenges that are affecting the fisheries sector in the Eastern Visayas and the rest of the country. While at the same time, this approach will help the organizations gain the support of the community, the LGUs, and other stakeholders to further their fisheries initiatives or sustainable fisheries initiatives in Eastern Visayas. Another is to explore alliances with other local government units and line government agencies for inclusive enhancement, conservation, and management of fishery resources. Local government units may explore alliances with other LGUs, line government agencies, academics, civil society organizations, and NGOs, among others, to effectively and efficiently plan and implement programs and projects in addition to the enforcement of fisheries-related policies in Eastern Visayas. Existing convergence models in the country may be explored to develop efficient and effective implementation strategies for fisheries and environmental conservation and management in Eastern Visayas. And finally, we need to strictly implement existing policies on fisheries. Enforcement and protection are simple things that can really make a big difference in terms of sustaining the local resources. For example, proponents of aquaculture projects covering more than 100,000 hectares of coastal waters are required to conduct an environmental impact assessment before securing an environmental compliance certificate, which is one of the many requirements for operating aquaculture projects. Now, this provision under the Presidential Decree 1586 or the decree establishing the Philippine Environmental Impact Statement System must be upheld along with the implementation of existing laws, local ordinances, and policies related to fisheries and environmental conservation in the Philippines.
Friends, we hope that this second episode has deepened and broadened your awareness and understanding about fisheries production in Eastern Visayas today. As we put this episode to a close, we would like to invite everyone to watch our next episode entitled Huruhisgutay number 3, Turismo ng Kalibungan ha Sinirangan Bisayas, or Tourism and Environmentalism in Eastern Visayas, which will be available for public viewing on February 26, 2021. We would also like to remind everyone that Hisgut Kalibungan may be viewed on the Facebook page of the Leyte-Samar Heritage Center, as well as the official Facebook page of UPV Tacloban College. Thank you for being part of this meaningful online presentation. We look forward to having all of you again in future Hisgut Kalibungan online events of the Leyte-Samar Heritage Center of UPV Tacloban College. Maupay nga gabi haaton nga tanan.